Okay, welcome to the July 20th, 2015 Hampden Town Council meeting. This time, could you please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next item on the agenda is item B, consent agenda. Does anybody have any questions on the consent agenda?
Move acceptance of the consent agenda.
Just a second.
I'm sorry.
Public comments? None? Okay. Do we have a motion to
We're
accept?
just going to move acceptance of the consent agenda.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Next item is public comments. At this time, it's open for the public. If they have any comments on any item that is not on the agenda tonight, this is your opportunity to come forward and speak. Jeremy?
Jeremy W. Jones, Esquire, a landed gentleman of the Partridge Road. Just a couple of items. One, I'm disappointed in one counselor who ran on fiscal responsibility and business sense, and now seems to be thinking that anybody that in his judgment has even some money, it's okay to spend that money. It's other people's money. Also, on public comment, during whatever item, it seems that in the last couple rounds, rebuttals were allowed. So that's okay. Just understand that I will rebut any rebuttals. Also, under Code of Ethics, I believe, in my opinion, there is appearance of a conflict of interest by one counselor, and I believe he should recuse himself from deliberations and voting on one of the items coming up, seeing that his salary is derived from his client's consistent use of certain services. And I would suggest that you might want to consider going into executive session to pursue that, or I may call a point of order. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Seeing none, public comments are closed. Next item, policy agenda. First item is item 3, nominations, appointments, and elections. David Barrett, reappointment to the Library Board. Services Committee recommendation. Councilor McAvoy.
Thank you, Mayor Ryder. On July 13th, the Services Committee voted to recommend the council that David Barrett be reappointed to the Pool Board. I make a motion that the council reappoint David Barrett to the Pool Board.
Second.
Library Board.
I'm sorry, Library Board.
Second.
All in favor? All opposed? Okay. Next item is item 4, unfinished business. Discussion in regards to the elimination of the Saturday bus service. At this point, we'll open it up for public comment. Anybody that would like to speak, just raise your hand and we'll take them one at a time. Yes, sir. He's behind you. Please state your name and what road you live on, please.
Hi, my name is Andrew Husson. I live at 45 Sunset Avenue in Hampden. Well, first of all, I have a whole... Is it not picking up? First of all, I have a stack of postcards of people that want to keep the bus going, that ride the bus. I would like to hand them to you guys. Generally, there's been quite the turnout and an obvious support of the bus for people that rely on it and need to keep using the bus to get to work and other places. And it's obvious, again, that there's quite the turnout. I have a couple quotes from people that live in town that ride the bus on Saturdays that I'd like to read. First is Nicole Carson of Hampden saying, I use the bus or Saturday bus run to get to work. Without the Saturday run, I have no way to get to work. Second is Robert Gray of Winterport that states, I ride the bus almost every day from Hampden to Bangor. If we didn't have the Saturday run on one of the only days I have off, I wouldn't be able to get anything accomplished. Please don't remove the Saturday run. I know one of the big discussions is whether Bangor can kick in on it, and people ride the Bangor bus 2 places in Bangor, so don't people from Hampden. But same thing goes on from the Old Town bus and goes on for even the Brewer bus, which just skips across the bridge. People ride the bus up the hill and get off. Those towns don't ask for financial support from Bangor and don't receive it. So why should we on top of it? I understand, yes, there's a good amount of money involved, but we get the fares from the people riding the bus, as well as it's a regional system. Hampden relies on this exact same region for people to go to work. Without it, our whole economy collapses. So if those of us that rely on the bus to do the same thing, why should we get rid of it? And I'd like to thank you for listening to me.
Thank you. Next. Go ahead.
Bill Lippincott, I live at 30 Wilbur Drive. I spoke last time, and I'm not going to go over all that, but I will say this is an essential service for people who have few other options. But I also have heard some concerns from the council, again, that Bangor is not putting in some money for this, but as I understand, as the last gentleman said, Orono and Vesey don't have Bangor subsidize that line. Brewer doesn't have Bangor subsidize that line. This is a real benefit to people in Hampden. And I heard an alternative suggested as, I think it's a LIFT program for people with transportation needs. Right, so as I understand it, that's a very expensive government program. It's borne by not just our town, but it's still, in terms of expense, the bus is a much more wise way to use that money. And I also think that a lot of people who might use the bus wouldn't be aware of that as an option. So again, I just urge you to keep this service, and this is something that speaks for how we are as a town. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who would like to speak? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Joyce Rankin, Maine Road North in Hampden. I spoke last time also. And I hate to be a broken record, but I have a list of 16 people that I know of who use the Hampden bus to get to and from work on Saturdays. 9 of them are Hampden residents. My daughter, Hampden to Walmart and Brewer. A lady, Hampden to University of Maine, Orono. A man, Hampden to Shaw's in Bangor. A lady, Hampden to Kmart in Bangor. A lady, Hampden to Hannaford in Hampden, and a second job in Bangor in the afternoon. A man in Hampden to Four Seasons Restaurant, or Seasons Restaurant in Bangor. A man, Hampden to Little Caesars in Brewer. A man, Hampden to McDonald's in Bangor. A lady, Hampden to Sears in Bangor. Plus, there is a 10th person, a man who lives in Bangor or Brewer, who works at Circle K here in Hampden. So that's 10 people directly associated, and I don't know everybody that rides the bus, whether they're going to work or not. That's just people I have become acquainted with in the past 4 years since I have retired. The other 6 people who use the Hampden bus to get to work on Saturday are not Hampden residents and do not work in Hampden, but they are still important to all of us. And I don't know what they do for work either. I say, if I've lived here for 39 years, and I've taken the bus for 30 years on and off as my cars broke down over the years, and now since I retired and sold my car to keep down pollution in the air. But if it ain't broke, don't try to fix it. How do you come up with $2.25 per passenger cost? Also, can't the town of Hampden raise the fare? My daughter and I would both be willing to pay more for the fare. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Hello, I am Angela Rankin. I live at 695 Main Road North in Hampden. Everyone in Bangor who uses the Hampden bus can easily walk to Pickering Square, or up Buck Street, or to the homeless shelter or the Bangor House to catch the Hampden Street bus. Hampden residents cannot easily walk to Pickering Square. It takes me almost an hour living almost in Bangor. You are hurting the Hampden residents who use the Hampden bus, not the Bangor residents who use it. I need the Brewer bus, and others who work in Bangor and Brewer need to transfer to other buses. Hampden doesn't want to share its bus, but I have never been kicked off a bus because I don't live in Bangor or Brewer. But you want to kick all the Bangor residents off Hampden's bus. It's not fair. You want to take and not give. The bus system is a give and take system that provides transportation for all, every place that it goes. You are hurting your own residents in not knowing how a bus system works. In the people I have talked to, we agree we can survive without Saturday. The only ones who will be hurt are the 9 Hampden residents we are aware of who have jobs. There may be more who we do not know of. It makes us have to work part or all of our day for our cab fare. And a 10th Hampden resident, Lori, who was at the last Hampden meeting, who needs her insulin on certain days of the week. But we also agree that we cannot survive without the Hampden bus at all. We need it during the week. Many more Hampden residents ride it during the week. I ask you not to cancel Saturday for a bunch of us. I beg you not to cancel all bus service for all of us. The Hampden bus has been running for at least 30 years. Hampden wanted a bus for its residents. Do you really think everyone up until now has been wrong in spending tax dollars on a city bus? No, I don't think so. You were wrong. Cancel Saturday if you must, but do not try to get rid of the bus in Hampden altogether and use some other idea that separates us from the rest of the bus system, which we need to go where we want, when we want. We want our freedom, and we want to use Bangor's bus system. We want to share their buses, so we should share our bus with them. The Bangor Daily News said Hampden's route is located mostly in Bangor and used largely by non-residents, yet Jeremy Jones, who spent 11 hours on the bus, said a quarter of 100 people got on in Hampden. That's 25 people. Our petition only had 34 Hampden residents who wanted Saturdays. That's most of that number. My mom went out one Saturday to gather cards for transportation for all. She had had it after doing it all morning and went home. Still, she got 14 filled out by Hampden residents. The route itself is located almost exactly half in Hampden. From the town line, it takes 1 minute to Thatcher Street, and no one gets on or off between that point. 6 minutes to the homeless shelter, where the Hampden Street bus comes out and covers the same ground to Pickering Square. Our bus reaches Pickering Square in 2 minutes. It takes 9 minutes from our town line to Pickering Square. On the way home, it takes 9 minutes from the depot to the town line. 9 plus 9 equals 18 minutes of the 1 hour route is in Bangor. The bus waits at Pickering Square for 8 to 12 minutes, so 30 minutes or less is in Bangor. But other buses wait at the depot, so you can't count that as Bangor time. It's time you have to pay for a Hampden residents to transfer buses like me to Brewer. Only 6 minutes from Thatcher Street to the homeless shelter is what Hampden helps Bangor. Both ways equals 12 minutes per run, about 1/6 of the route time. There is no Bangor bus that will replace the Bangor part of the Hampden run. There never was before our petition. There won't be one if you cancel Saturday. Bangor residents are within walking distance to the depot and the Hammond Street route. We finally got enough riders on the Hampden bus to get the federal funding so that we only pay $16,000 for Saturdays, the same as other days, instead of $28,000 or $38,000. And now you want to cut it now that we got the price down. That's not fair. If you don't care about Hampden residents, cancel Saturdays. It's obvious you don't care about me, and I'm a Hampden resident. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else who would like to speak? Gentleman in front.
Thank you for mentioning that thing about Jeremy and his 11-hour route. I was just thinking back to that, and you cannot base how a route is doing by riding the Saturday route for 11 hours on only one Saturday. You would need to do that for maybe 2 or 3 months to really get enough data to find out how a bus route is really doing. But to try to base your facts on just one Saturday, that is not enough data to really find out how a bus is doing. So I would say before you decide to get rid of the Saturday route, ask Jeremy to go ride the bus for 11 hours for a couple more Saturdays and see if it does that bad for a couple more Saturdays.
Thank you. Anybody else like to speak?
Clyde McDonald, Maine Road. As you know, I spoke last time. Also spoke at the Bangor meeting. And I've been trying to emphasize that we ought to do the math. And I still don't have the figures. Councilman Shakespeare came to the Bangor meeting and asked the bus managers some very good questions. And I think as councilors, you all would feel the responsibility of needing to know precisely how much this is costing. But whatever the figure is, it's really going to turn out to be rather minuscule in a $6 million town budget. Someone had suggested to me that what we're talking about here, and this is probably iffy, we're talking about someone who pays a $25,000 tax bill maybe having to pay an extra $2 to sustain the service. So if we turn this down, those who want to turn it down aren't doing anything for the town of Hampden. All they're doing is they're asking for no sacrifices from the great majority in order to impose great hardships on people who are not blessed with having a car or a driver's license. In other words, hardships on the disadvantaged, and that's what this issue, the way I view this issue. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else like to speak?
My name is Lisa Schofield. I'm a Hampden resident. I live at 46 Back Winterport Road. I consider the bus system at any cost an invaluable source of community for the Hampden residents that I know. As a school teacher, I love getting up in front of my class and saying that I live in a community that has a bus. And I feel that even if my taxes were to go up, I would consider it an investment in the future. Just today, I was in the Hannaford shopping, and a student told me who works there that he lives a mile from the school, and that he lives a mile from his job, and he is driving to work, and he said, you know, Mrs. Schofield, that's a waste. That was unsolicited. He said he might try riding his bike. And I feel that there's going to be a sea change in the attitude of our young people. Already, statistically, in the United States, the number of driver's licenses is going down. People are moving to places like Portland where they can walk to work and enjoy a very fine public transportation system. And I consider it a great benefit to me, to my students, and to the people coming up who might not think that a car is the best investment. So I encourage you to keep the Saturday run, and hopefully, if we can do some more outreach, more people will ride the Saturday bus, and the revenues will go up. I'm a little disappointed that the buses leave Pickering Square so early. I'd like to see more nighttime runs. So rather than giving up on the Saturday run, let's see if we can't build on what we have and increase the ridership. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else have any comments? Jeremy?
Jeremy W. Jones, Esquire, a landed gentleman of the Partridge Road. I'll digress a little bit, but as far as a mile, to someone who's in decent health, I know I did a couple of test walks. I hike and hunt and fish, but I did a test walk from down Maine Road, around 695 out to Thatcher Street in Bangor, which is 0.9 miles. And I walked real slow, and it took me 17 minutes and 8 seconds. I turned around and walked back, even slower, to try to emulate a slower pace, and it was 17 minutes and 43 seconds. Just for a comparison, my normal pace is about 16 minutes per mile. Therefore, 0.9 miles would normally take me about 14 and a half minutes. If you're that close, walk, don't drive. I say Thatcher Street because that's the route that the bus takes to take care of Beals and I think it's the Manor. But if you look at the map and you see all the stops, and yeah, you know, my data shows every place where everyone got on and off, and you're welcome to more of this data or copies of this. It truly is mostly in Bangor, and for the life of me, I can't see a business or bus system that would cut out all that just because of Hampden. That's why I proposed, and please listen, I'm not saying no bus. I asked the bus service, will you have a Bangor South run containing the current Hampden bus route, with the bulk of which being rightly funded by the city of Bangor, with Hampden riders contributing only their fares? And 2, will you have Hampden subsidize only that portion of the bus run within the town of Hampden? Number 3, will you have Hampden subsidize only those riders that board in Hampden? Number 4, will you have only 4 runs on to Hampden on Saturday with conditions as stated in 1, 2, and 3 above? I did not check my email from noon on, so I don't know if that I've been responded to, but that's questions have been out there for several weeks. And you're right. What I did was a point sample of a run, and trust me, I'm a process engineer. I understand sampling and having confidence in your data. And yes, more data would be helpful. I have asked for the BAT data, and I have not received that as of yet. They were doing pretty much the same thing I was doing while I was riding that bus. There's a lot of comments from people from Bangor. Some of the stuff even posted, I assume it was from the BAT system, with names but no addresses. So some of these I recognize as Hampden, some I'm pretty sure are in Bangor or elsewhere. But what I see is a gross inefficiency, and we're being told to pay for it. Most of my day, well, many of my days start at 4 a.m. Absolutely, almost every one of them is after midnight before I get to bed, and I work. The jobs I work and the contracted projects I take on demand that from me. I don't need someone to say, "Oh, you have some money, so we need to have it." To me, that's theft. I have no stomach for that. I can see if we can make things more efficient. If the BAT system, I have asked, I've offered to review their system. I can see a lot of waste, a lot of it that you may think, oh, the bus, efficient, less traffic, less pollution, no need for parking. But in every one of those, they fail. They make so many runs with partial loads of people. It's insane. So the pollution spewing forth, compared to how many people are on that, is just ridiculous. As I stated before, parking is an issue in Hannaford. It's not an issue in Shaw's. And the parking garage in Bangor is open and free on Saturdays. The question that I have, obviously, is who pays and how much. And I'm saying we can reduce that need for payment if instead of just working for the sake of working or running a bus for the sake of running the bus, fewer runs, more targeted runs, it would be less costly. Hold on. I'm getting old, too. So I haven't been contacted, and I have volunteered to try to help. That's what I do for industry. I have saved, on the projects I have done, I have saved companies thousands of dollars, and sometimes, in some cases, hundreds of thousands of dollars per year, every year. In other words, I've implemented changes that not only save then, but from then on. The bus system needs that. I think we really need to get back to some fiscal responsibility, and we can still do that and help our Hampden residents. It's just, when you start looking at these real prices, these real monies that are being spent, you might say, well, it's not my money. Yeah, well, these are taxes. These are my federal taxes and your federal taxes. There are state taxes as well as town taxes, and I think it can be a lot more efficient. So anybody that's involved in business, can you imagine if you were approached and even the I don't want to call it a threat, but the chance of losing 10% of your runs or 10% of your business, and you do nothing, you sit back? In every business I've worked for, that person would be fired before the end of the day. has anyone been contacted, worked with? I don't know. I know I haven't. It just blows my mind that a business could run like that, unless it's such a hack position that it doesn't matter, that they're going to get money anyways. That, amazing. There are other ways. And I can say that to the woman that sold her car, if you had signed up for Uber, you could have been making money. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else would like to speak? Yes, ma'am.
My name's Angela Bickford. I'm from Bangor. I'm co-chair of the Transportation for All, and we're responsible for the signature campaign of the postcards. And I personally have looked over many of them, and yes, some Bangor residents have also wanted this bus service to continue. But I can tell you personally, I lived in the middle of Bangor and was a nanny here for many years, and there's no way I would have been able to do it by walking here. And I walk all the time when I'm able to. I feel that sometimes we need to put the humans back into the figure. You're talking about people not being able to go to their jobs or school, or to even do a load of laundry because Saturdays are the days that they can do it. And I would just urge that you keep this service for the people, the human people that need this. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Last chance. Okay, at this time, public comments closed. Is there anybody that feels they have a conflict of interest for this discussion? Okay. So, I'll open it up for discussion for Saturday bus service. Councilor Sorois.
I agree with all the points being made. I will tell you, Jeremy's very passionate about his view, as well as all of you with your view. I can tell you that I have not been approached by anyone or talked to anyone other than Jeremy that has been against this Saturday service. Nobody. I look at, by the nature of my business, I look at everything as a return on investment. And the way that we are being billed for the service is not fair and doesn't equate. We're not getting that return on investment. That being said, it's still an important service. And until we find a better way, whether through negotiations with the city, the administration that runs the BAT, or finding an alternative, I cannot in good conscience just cut it. I think that my feeling is that we need to continue to a point and work towards finding a resolution for this discrepancy that we're seeing between what we're being billed and what the city of Bangor is being billed in other municipalities. So that's just my opinion.
Thank you. Anybody else?
My comments are, to say that we as a council don't care is not true. We do care, but also for us to say we need to provide this service regardless of the cost is just unrealistic. We have to look at the cost for things. We have to look at what we get for the cost. And the issue isn't that our bus enters Bangor. The comment was made about Orono doesn't get subsidized, Old Town doesn't get subsidized. But the issue that we have is people that never enter Hampden. They get on the bus in Bangor, they get off the bus in Bangor. We as a community are paying for Bangor people that never enter the town of Hampden. And that's one of the major issues with this, is we are paying a very high amount of money for a bus service that first of all, a lot of people that don't live in our community we are paying for. The second part is we have a very small portion of our community that can even ride the bus because most of the residents live outside the area that the bus runs. That's the highest population of people per square mile. But there are a lot of people that live outside of that bus route that have to find ways to work, have to find ways to do laundry, everything else that either don't have cars or are elderly. Options that we were looking at were options that would be available to all of the residents of Hampden, like the links, that people outside of that area could use. They could come to their house, pick them up, or anything, as long as I think they need to know in advance. But we're looking at other options, but I just want people to understand it's not that we don't care. It's the system, the way it is now, is inefficient and it's not working. It has to be fixed for us to pay that high cost, and also, again, paying for people that never enter our town.
Any other comments? Councilor Wild?
There's a lot of really good points being made in this discussion, and this discussion has gone on for 5-6 months now. One of the biggest points that we've been discussing is the fact that we're not asking for a subsidy. We're actually subsidizing Bangor for their run. We pay over $2.20 per rider is what it works out to, while Bangor pays 72 cents per rider for their runs within their city. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to get to a happy medium place where the Bangor area transportation will actually return our phone calls or actually return our questions and work with us on this, because we're paying more than double than any other outlying community. Now, with that being said, that's where this discussion was started, and what we were trying to do was trying to figure out a financial commonplace where it makes sense for both parties. With that being said, my district is District 1. For those of you who don't know what District 1 is, that's pretty much the Bangor route for the bus, right over here. A lot of people have contacted me. I've had 3 people contact me basically saying that under no circumstances should we continue the Saturday service, but I've had substantially more contact me and say they don't mind or please don't cancel it. I have to agree with Carol that it's not that we're heartless or anything like that, but I also, on the other hand, have to agree with Councilor Savoyce over here. Until we find an alternative, or until we can actually get the BAT to actually have a conversation with us about this and trying to figure out a way to restructure this cost so that we're not paying more than double than any other community, outlying community other than Bangor, and we're not subsidizing so much of that transportation for them. I can't cut Saturday. I just can't do it because my constituents have talked very, very loud to me. Granted, it's a handful, but sitting up here, it's not my personal feelings that will make me vote, but rather the people that talk to me and the voters that put me here. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Councilor Dupre?
I did want to make a comment about, someone said we'd be willing to pay more. We're not allowed to do that. If that was an option, that would be a great alternative, but we can't do that. Everybody has to pay the same amount, so we can't charge a higher rate in Hampden than what they pay, than what Bangor charges.
Councilor Marble?
Well, I don't think it'll surprise any of you excuse me? There's a question that should be directed to the chair.
Jeremy? A little what the red card's for.
I just committed an egregious foul and was thrown out of the game.
Just keep talking.
Well, that puts some spice into things now, doesn't it? I think early on, once this discussion got framed as unit costs and poor versus everybody else, frankly, the place this conversation has arrived was preordained. It couldn't go anywhere else. If the conversation had started about regional transportation and regional economy and our relationship to a service center with a healthy economy, we might have had a different conversation. We interviewed a couple of very good candidates, not that our current town manager isn't and hasn't been, because she has. But I asked one of the candidates for the position if he could justify the numbers around the bus, and he very quickly and unequivocally said, no, you can't make it work numbers-wise in a rural community. And what I didn't do, and what I wish I had done, was followed up and pressed him and said, so what would you do anyway? There's a point where the role of business and the analyses about business lose relevance when we're talking community service and government. And without making a big speech, I mean, our roots go back to fighting abuse of power in Europe and equality and public interest. Last week, before the committee meeting last Wednesday night, I drove to Augusta to be a part of an advisory council on a foundation. And it's their policy, with foundation money, to pay mileage reimbursement. And I got that 57 cents or whatever it is that we talked about, that's the IRS level. And I thought, well, that's an interesting part of all of this. Who gets funded and subsidized for transportation and who doesn't? I was a little tired, so on the way to the meeting, I stopped and got a medium coffee to go. It wasn't at the coffee break because they weren't open. If they had been, it would have been. And in that moment of buying a coffee, I basically covered my wife and my share of half a year's worth of property tax subsidy for Saturday service. And I didn't give that coffee any thought. I spent $2+, whatever the hell it was. So I think Councilor Soroy has made an excellent suggestion. I don't think we're at a point where we've figured it all out. I think everybody who has attacked numbers and confusion and lack of communication has been accurate in doing so. I don't think we have all the information that we need to have, and I don't think we've explored every option. The possibility of fewer runs on Saturday strikes me as a very reasonable thought to at least pursue. There's complications around jobs and unions and everything else that I don't have to deal with sitting here. But I'm going to vote to continue it because otherwise we make a decision tonight that shuts the door on a small but real number of people who live in this town that are a part of this town. And if I didn't think that was the outcome, I'd vote to discontinue the bus, but I can't do that.
Thank you. Any other comments? Councilor McAvoy.
I make a motion that we discontinue the Saturday bus service as of August 1st.
Okay, but we're still having discussion, but,
Well, after you make the motion, then we can take, have discussion, so.
all right. Councilor Shakespeare?
I can second that. I'll second it.
She's going to second. Okay, Councilor Shakespeare.
I was at the, as noted here, at that Wednesday hearing in Bangor, and I'm glad I did attend it. I heard basically most of the same individuals here this evening testify in Bangor about the community connector and the need to have it. I've been on the council 6 years now and have always voted for the bus every year. And then 3 years ago, one of the councilors brought up the issue that they'd like to see a Saturday bus. Well, the state at that time then brought up that issue because the state was going to give a subsidy of $14,000. That Saturday bus was going to cost us $28,000. There was a lot of discussion at that time about it, but actually it would cost the town of Hampden $14,000. And we voted to try it on a trial basis. Well, last year, the subsidy was taken away from us. So it was no longer $14,000 a year we had to pay for that bus. It was $28,000. And the confusion comes in because this year, lo and behold, when we were discussing not having the Saturday bus continue, Community Connector says, well, that'll save you $16,000. And we're all shaking our head, those who knew, oh, wait a minute, we're paying $28,000. And 2 or 3 individuals in the Community Connector were throwing different figures at us, and I know the public was confused, and I was confused. Well, I asked the town manager today, how'd they come up with the $16,000? Well, apparently, they took what we're going to be paying, $96,000 a year for the bus system, and divided it by 6 days. That comes out to $16,000. So in other words, they're not giving us the full value of what we really have been paying for that bus. Now, I know that's immaterial to you individuals here and to those who need the bus to go to work, to go shopping, and to do other things they want to do. But it was on a trial basis that we decided to accept that. And as one of the counselors says, we, Town of Hampden, Town Council, do not set the fares for the bus. We have nothing to do with what you pay, nothing to do with the senior citizens, with the students, with an average individual. I think if I was to get on that bus, I'd have to pay $1.50 to go wherever, round trip to Bangor, and maybe sit on it and not get off. Once I'm off it, I'm off it. You have to pay another $1.50 to get on. Well, I just want to read to you, I didn't have this available last time. I had it in my paperwork but couldn't find it. Some of you asked about the figures. And this isn't what the town of Hampden is paying out to the Community Connector. This is what, these figures are what they figure it cost us per individual, cost the town of Hampden per individual, or cost Brewer per individual to ride that bus. And they take into consideration, apparently, I say apparently because I question whether they even know what their figures mean at times from the different things that we have received, emails, oh, I made a mistake, oh, no, that figure was wrong, oh, so-and-so says it's such and such. Well, I question whether they even know what they're doing there with the figures and their accountability. But anyways, Hampden, $96,012 is what we've got here as local share cost. That's based on, they figure, a ridership of 43,655 per year. That comes out to $2.20. The Hampden residents are paying for each rider, whether it's a Hampden rider or a Bangor rider. That's what we are paying here in Hampden. The VOOT, which is Vesey, Orono, Old Town, University of Maine, I don't know what the T stands for, but they call it a VOOT. They pay $144,000 compared to our $96,000, but that's 4 entities, like 4 communities. 158,000 riders. That comes out to 91 cents per rider cost. Brewer has $1.34 per rider cost. And Bangor, which has the highest ridership, comes out to 72 cents per rider cost for the community. So you can see, compared to our $2.20, why it rang some alarms here, like, why are we paying so much? Well, why we're paying so much is because we don't have the ridership, even with the Bangor riders. And the Bangor riders, in my estimation, and from what I could see, observation, and some other individuals, are 3/4 of the ridership on that bus. And we are paying $2, like one individual was at the hearing there Wednesday, and I don't mean to pick, I don't know his name, I wouldn't say it if I did, but he said he lived on Lincoln Street. And he ran on Saturdays around Bangor to the mall and different places and needed the Hampden bus to get back home. Okay, well, take that for what it is, that on a Saturday he goes places and he goes back to the hub at Pickering Square, and then he needs that bus, needs that Hampden bus on Saturday to get back to Lincoln Street. Well, I left after he did, and I'm riding in my truck down Main Street, and lo and behold, who do I see walking past Dunkin' Donuts towards Lincoln Street? But that same individual. So, you know, he says he needs the bus, but he's not taking the bus. There are other ways of getting transportation. The Lynx. The Lynx even has a sign on the side of their vehicle. I'm not going to answer questions. You can raise your hands. They have said for low income, they'll come and pick somebody up, and they'll take them wherever they're going, as long as it's prearranged. And there are other ways to get transportation. One individual said to me recently, you know, Bill, because you want to hurt the Bangor residents, you're only going to hurt the Hampden residents. Well, no, I'm sorry. I don't want to hurt the Bangor residents, and I don't want to hurt the Hampden residents. I'm just trying to find a resolution here. I'd love to continue that bus on Saturday. And I'd love for the community connector to communicate and give us some reasonable, considerate figures, considering there's only, as Dennis Marble said, a limited number, I think it was an email or someplace, a limited number of individuals who use the bus. And there's only a limited number of individuals, and you count, I understand that. But when you take into consideration the whole community of over 7,000 individuals, what's the expectations from, I've talked to people about it, and they've given me dirty looks saying, oh, you know, you're a bad guy wanting to discontinue the Saturday bus. And then I tell them what it costs, $96,000, not just for Saturday, but the whole bus line. And they say, whoa, I didn't realize it cost that much. That's a lot of money, $96,000. And I can tell you, it's just Saturday bus we're discussing this evening. But I'll be honest with you, probably this next year, the council will be discussing the whole bus line. I hate to say that because of the cost of it. So I'm saying to the community connector, how about some communication here? She's sitting right there. We need the community connector, the city of Bangor, to be reasonable with the town of Hampden so that you individuals can get on the bus when you need to and go wherever you need to. Well, it just irks me when I see that bus going through Bangor. There's a lot of people on it, and they're getting off before they even enter Hampden. And then it's going through Hampden, and I'm looking, and I'm on the road all the time, so I see it. One individual on it, or it gets to Hannaford, and there's nobody on it. I'm saying, why are we paying this high price to transport just a few individuals around? Does the town want to continue this? Well, that's what we're discussing tonight. Those counselors who feel the empathy that we should pay that price no matter what, okay? And those who maybe feel we shouldn't. But, you know, I'm just kind of pleading with the city of Bangor to bring our cost down on that community connector bus, because we're paying way too much for it.
Thank you. Anybody else have any comments? I guess I'll put my 2 cents worth in. Last year, we had the same discussion. I voted no last year. I represent District 4, which doesn't have anything to do with the bus. Can't get on the bus. The people out there, that most of them don't care one way or the other. A lot of them do not see any need for Saturday's bus. They agree 100%. They need the bus 5 days a week. Wholeheartedly agree it's a good service for the town. Saturday, they do not agree with. And seeing those are the people that elected me into position, I voted no last year. I'm not going to sit here and argue about what the city of Bangor does or doesn't do. I realize bus service will never pay for itself. It's going to be a subsidy no matter what we do. From here on, it doesn't matter. You're going to have to subsidize it all week. You're going to have to subsidize it all weekend. It's never going to be self-sufficient. There's no way they can do it. So it is what it is. I totally support 5 days a week. I think it's an absolute necessity. But at this time, I still do not agree that we need it on Saturday. Any other discussion? We're ready to take a vote. All those in favor of Saturday bus service, raise your hands. Oh, the motion is to do away, sorry. Okay, all those in favor of discontinuing Saturday bus service? All those opposed? Moves 4-3. At this point, we'll take a 5-minute break and come back. Thank you.